Xyro, a seasoned warrior from the Narthon race, stood at the edge of Earth's atmosphere, his sleek ship cloaked and hovering just beyond the reach of human sensors. His mission was clear but daunting. Infiltrate the Merra Military Academy, the pinnacle of Earth's military training, and uncover the secrets of human warfare. The Narthons, a technologically advanced species from the distant planet Phrix, had observed humanity's rapid rise with a mix of curiosity and concern. Were these Earthlings a potential ally, or did they pose a threat to the long-standing dominance of the Narthon race? Xyro was sent to find out. As Xyro descended through the clouds, the sprawling campus of the academy came into view. The architecture was a blend of ancient tradition and cutting-edge technology, with towering buildings that gleamed under the sun. The academy was surrounded by vast training grounds, where cadets drilled in synchronized movements, their shouts of command echoing in the crisp air. Xyro had been briefed on Earth's military customs and the rigorous nature of their training, but experiencing it in person was an entirely different matter. Stepping through the academy gates, Xyro felt a mix of anticipation and unease. His appearance had been meticulously altered to blend in with the humans, his features slightly softened, his skin tone adjusted, and his eyes masked to hide their natural otherworldly glow. The Narthon scientists had done their work well. No one would suspect that beneath the human facade was an alien warrior on a covert mission. His cover story was equally airtight, designed with precision to leave no room for doubt. As far as anyone here knew, Xyro was an exchange cadet from a distant, isolated Earth colony, one that had only recently re-established contact with the rest of humanity after centuries of isolation. This story explained his occasional unfamiliarity with certain Earth customs and his sometimes stilted manner of speaking. It was the perfect guise, and Xyro had rehearsed it meticulously. As he passed through the gates, Xyro couldn't help but take in his surroundings. The Merra Military Academy was an imposing sight, with its grandiose architecture that seemed to blend ancient martial traditions with the latest in technological advancements. The towering buildings, made of gleaming metal and reinforced glass, reflected the sunlight in a way that made them appear almost otherworldly. Everywhere he looked, there were cadets moving with purpose, some marching in formation, others engaged in animated discussions about tactics and strategy. The air was thick with a sense of discipline and focus, a reminder that this was no ordinary school, but a place where future leaders of Earth's military were forged. The first few days at the academy were a whirlwind of activity. Xyro was immediately thrust into a series of introductions, meeting with various instructors, fellow cadets, and academy staff. Each encounter was a test of his ability to maintain his cover, and he navigated them with the skill of a seasoned infiltrator. He memorized names, learned the faces of his peers, and quickly picked up on the subtle social cues that governed human interactions. The humans were friendly enough, their smiles warm and welcoming, but Xyro could sense the undercurrents of rivalry and competition. This was a place where everyone was striving to prove themselves, to stand out as the best among their peers. It was clear that only the strongest, smartest, and most resourceful would rise to the top. The orientation sessions were intense, packed with information about the academy's history, its traditions, and the rigorous training program that lay ahead. Xyro listened carefully, absorbing every detail. He learned about the academy's founding, its storied past, and the countless battles in which its graduates had played pivotal roles. The humans took great pride in their military heritage, and Xyro could see why. They spoke of their predecessors with reverence, recounting tales of heroism and sacrifice that had shaped the course of human history. For Xyro, this was not just an education in Earth's military doctrine, but a window into the human psyche, their values, their beliefs, and the deep sense of duty that drove them to protect their world. Adjusting to life on Earth proved to be more challenging than Xyro had anticipated. Despite his extensive training and preparation, there were moments when he felt like a stranger in a strange land. The food, for one, was an adjustment. Narthon's sustenance was vastly different from human cuisine, and while Xyro could consume human food without issue, the tastes and textures were foreign to him. He made a conscious effort to try everything, masking his reactions as best as he could. Then there were the customs, small, everyday things that Xyro had to quickly learn and adapt to. The way humans greeted each other, their casual banter, the social rituals that seemed so trivial, yet were deeply ingrained in their culture. Each new situation was a learning experience, and Xyro approached them with the meticulousness of a soldier studying a battlefield. Despite these challenges, Xyro quickly found his place within the Academy's social structure. His cover story as an exchange cadet from a reclusive colony worked to his advantage, explaining away any minor slips or unfamiliarity with Earth customs. His fellow cadets were curious about his background, asking questions about life on his supposed home colony, which Xyro answered with well-rehearsed anecdotes. He played the role of the slightly enigmatic outsider well, drawing just enough attention to be memorable without arousing suspicion. But underneath the surface, Xyro was always on alert, constantly analyzing and assessing the humans around him. He observed how they interacted with one another, noting the dynamics of leadership and loyalty that played out in their daily lives. The humans were a complex mix of emotions and logic, driven by both their individual ambitions and a collective sense of duty. It was a delicate balance, and Xyro could see how it influenced every aspect of their training. Even in their friendly interactions, there was always an undercurrent of competition, a desire to excel and prove oneself worthy of the Academy's high standards. As the days turned into weeks, Xyro's initial unease began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of curiosity and respect for the humans. They were not as simple or predictable as he had initially thought. There was a depth to them, a resilience and adaptability that was both fascinating and, in some ways, unsettling. Xyro knew that his mission was far from over. There was still much to learn about these Earthlings, their strengths, their weaknesses, and what truly drove them. But as he continued to immerse himself in the life of a cadet, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was no longer just an observer on a mission. He was becoming part of this world, drawn into its challenges and complexities in ways he had not anticipated. And with each passing day, the line between his mission and his growing respect for these humans became increasingly blurred. The physical training at the Merra Military Academy was more demanding than anything Xyro had anticipated. Despite the natural strength and resilience of his Narthon heritage, Xyro quickly found himself tested in ways he had not expected. The Academy's regimen was relentless, designed to push every cadet to their absolute limits and then beyond. From the very first day, Xyro realized that this was not going to be an easy assignment. The training sessions began at dawn, when the first rays of sunlight barely touched the horizon. The cadets were roused from their bunks by the sharp sound of a whistle, and within minutes, they were outside, lined up and ready to begin. The air was cold and crisp, but there was no time to dwell on discomfort. The instructors wasted no time in putting them through their paces, starting with long-distance runs that took them across the Academy's expansive grounds. These runs were not just about speed, but also about endurance. The cadets had to maintain a steady pace for miles, navigating rough terrain, steep inclines, and obstacles that tested their agility and strength. Xyro had expected these runs to be manageable. After all, Narthons were naturally more powerful than humans, with greater physical capabilities. But it didn't take long for him to realize that sheer strength was not enough. The human cadets around him displayed a remarkable endurance, their faces set in determined expressions as they pushed through the pain and fatigue. They did not slow down, did not falter, even as the miles stretched on and their muscles began to burn. Xyro found himself increasingly challenged by the pace, his legs growing heavy as he struggled to keep up. The humans were relentless, and Xyro quickly understood that underestimating them would be a grave mistake. After the runs came the strength training. The cadets were led to a large open area filled with heavy weights, resistance equipment, and a variety of training tools designed to build muscle and power. The sessions were grueling, with the cadets lifting, pulling, and pushing their bodies to the brink of exhaustion. Xyro watched as his fellow cadets tackled the weights with a determination that bordered on the fanatical. They pushed themselves to lift more, to press harder, their bodies straining under the load. Xyro, though naturally stronger, found himself impressed by their resolve. The humans might not have the innate strength of a Narthon, but they made up for it with sheer willpower and a refusal to quit. It was during the hand-to-hand combat drills that Xyro truly began to understand the depth of the human spirit. These drills were the most intense part of the training, pitting cadets against each other in close-quarters combat. The instructors emphasized not just physical power, but also technique, strategy, and mental toughness. The cadets fought in pairs, each trying to outmaneuver and overpower their opponent. The fights were brutal, leaving everyone bruised and battered by the end of the day. Xyro entered these drills with confidence, relying on his Narthon strength and combat skills. But he quickly learned that the humans were not to be underestimated. They fought with a ferocity and determination that took him by surprise. Each cadet was like a coiled spring, unleashing their energy in calculated bursts, using their smaller size and agility to their advantage. They moved with a fluidity and precision that made them difficult to predict, their blows landing with surprising force. Xyro found himself on the defensive more often than he had expected, forced to adapt to their aggressive style. As the days of training turned into weeks, Xyro began to feel the strain. His muscles ached, his body was covered in bruises, and every part of him seemed to protest the relentless pace. But he refused to let it show. Among the cadets, there was an unspoken rule. No one complained. No one showed weakness. It was a matter of pride and honor to push through the pain, to keep going no matter how exhausted they were. Xyro had to match that resolve, not just to maintain his cover, but also out of respect for his fellow cadets. He could see the same exhaustion in their eyes, the same pain etched on their faces, but they never quit. They kept pushing, kept fighting, and Xyro knew he had to do the same. By the end of each day, the cadets were utterly spent, their bodies pushed to the brink of collapse. They would drag themselves back to their barracks, too tired to talk, and collapse onto their bunks, knowing that in a few short hours, it would all begin again. But despite the exhaustion, there was also a sense of accomplishment, a quiet pride in having survived another day of the Academy's relentless training. For Xyro, it was a lesson in the power of human endurance and the unbreakable will that drove these cadets. He had come to Earth expecting to find a race that was powerful but predictable, strong but simplistic. Instead, he had discovered a species that was complex, resourceful, and capable of enduring even the most grueling challenges. It was a revelation that would stay with him long after his time at the Academy was over. Yet, it wasn't just their physical prowess that caught Xyro's attention. The tactical exercises were where the humans truly shined. Xyro observed their keen sense of strategy, their ability to think several steps ahead, and their knack for adapting to rapidly changing situations. In the war games, cadets simulated battlefield scenarios where every decision could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Xyro was surprised to see how quickly the humans could adjust their plans, turning what seemed like certain defeat into a hard-fought victory. Their creativity and resourcefulness in the face of overwhelming odds were qualities that Xyro had not anticipated. But it was the night operations that left the deepest impression on Xyro. These exercises were among the most demanding and critical parts of the training, designed to push the cadets beyond their comfort zones and test their ability to operate under the most challenging conditions. Conducted under the cover of darkness, these drills required the cadets to rely not on their sight, but on their other senses, instincts, and the advanced technology at their disposal. Xyro had been through countless simulations and exercises on his home planet of Vrix, but nothing had prepared him for what he encountered here on Earth. The night operations began as soon as the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the Academy grounds into a blanket of darkness. The cadets were equipped with state-of-the-art headsets and night vision gear, but even with this technology, the environment was disorienting. The moonless nights were especially challenging, with only the faintest glimmers of starlight providing any natural illumination. For Xyro, whose Narthon physiology was adapted to the dimmer light of his homeworld, the darkness was both familiar and unsettling. He had always been confident in his ability to navigate in low light, but the humans were about to show him that they had mastered this skill to a degree he had not anticipated. As the exercises commenced, Xyro was immediately struck by the humans' ability to move with a stealth and precision that bordered on the uncanny. The cadets moved as one, their footfalls barely making a sound as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Xyro had expected some level of noise, some indication of their movements, but there was none. It was as if they had become part of the shadows themselves, blending seamlessly into their surroundings. The silence was almost eerie, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the quiet hum of their equipment. Every movement was deliberate, every step calculated to avoid detection. Communication during these operations was conducted in near silence, an impressive feat given the complexity of the maneuvers they were executing. The cadets used subtle hand signals and gestures, their movements barely perceptible in the darkness. They also relied on advanced headsets that allowed them to transmit commands and updates without making a sound. Xyro marveled at the technology, which enabled them to stay in constant contact without breaking the silence. The coordination required for this kind of communication was staggering, and yet the cadets handled it with a level of proficiency that spoke of countless hours of practice and training. What impressed Xyro the most was the flawless coordination among the cadets. Each member of the unit seemed to anticipate the other's movements, working in perfect harmony to achieve their objectives. There was no hesitation, no confusion, only a seamless execution of the plan. They moved like a well-oiled machine, each part functioning in perfect sync with the others. Xyro watched as they executed complex maneuvers with an efficiency that left no room for error. They outflanked their opponents with ease, striking with deadly accuracy, and then disappearing back into the shadows before their targets even knew what had hit them. The precision of these operations was not just a testament to their training, but also to their trust in one another. It was clear that these cadets had formed a bond, a level of camaraderie that allowed them to function as a single unit. Xyro could see how each member of the team relied on the others, confident that they would be where they needed to be, doing what needed to be done. This level of teamwork was something Xyro had rarely seen, even among his own people. The Narthons were a highly disciplined and efficient race, but the humans brought something different to the table, a kind of intuitive understanding and unspoken communication that made them formidable in ways that were difficult to quantify. As the night operations continued, Xyro found himself reevaluating his initial assumptions about the humans. He had come to Earth expecting to find a species that was powerful, but ultimately predictable, strong, but lacking the finesse and strategy that characterized Narthon warfare. Instead, he discovered a race that was capable of incredible unity, adaptability, and ingenuity. The humans were not just following orders. They were thinking, reacting, and adjusting in real time, their minds as sharp as their weapons. Xyro knew that these night operations were just one aspect of the training, but they revealed a depth of capability that he had not fully appreciated. The humans' ability to operate in complete darkness, their mastery of stealth and precision, and their flawless coordination made them a force to be reckoned with. It was clear to Xyro that these Earthlings were not to be underestimated. They had the skills, the technology, and the mindset to challenge even the most advanced adversaries. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Xyro felt a genuine sense of respect for his fellow cadets. He realized that they were not just potential threats. They were worthy opponents and perhaps, in time, even worthy allies. As the weeks passed, Xyro found himself developing a begrudging respect for the humans. He had come to Earth with a clear mission: to assess the threat posed by these beings and return to Vrix with his findings. But now, he was beginning to see them in a different light. The humans were not just powerful warriors. They were also thinkers, strategists, and above all, survivors. Their ability to adapt, to learn from their mistakes, and to work together as a cohesive unit was something that Xyro had rarely seen, even among his own people. Xyro's interactions with the other cadets further deepened his understanding. He found himself engaging in conversations about military ethics, the value of life, and the true cost of war. The humans spoke with a sense of moral responsibility that resonated with Xyro in ways he had not expected. They were not simply driven by a desire for conquest or domination. They fought to protect, to defend what they held dear. It was a perspective that Xyro had not fully considered before. As his time at the Academy drew to a close, Xyro knew that his mission had taken an unexpected turn. He had gathered the information he needed: detailed notes on human military strategies, their strengths and weaknesses, and their approach to warfare. But he was also leaving with something more profound: a newfound respect for these Earthlings and a recognition that they were not just potential enemies. They were potential allies, and perhaps even friends. When Xyro finally left the Academy, blending into the night as his ship ascended into the sky, he carried with him more than just military intelligence. He carried the knowledge that humanity's greatest strength lay not in their weapons or their tactics, but in their ability to unite in the face of adversity. It was a lesson that Xyro knew would shape the future of his people's relationship with Earth. As he set a course back to Vrix, Xyro couldn't help but wonder what the future held for both their worlds.